Hey, welcome to this week's Hired How to Get the Jobs weekly review. Today we're going to be discussing the top six-ish mistakes I witnessed from clients and consults for the month of September. Again, if you don't remember, September I had the 30 for 30 going, so I was trying to do 30 free resume consults in the month. I ended up doing 32, so that was fantastic. Was able to talk to a lot of people and really help a lot of people. So I was really excited about that. And then after that, we'll take your questions and answers. So if you do have some questions, feel free to type them in. Feel free to type them while I'm going through the resume stuff. If there's something I'm talking about, I'll try to check them in real time. There's a little bit of a delay, but I'll do my best to try to get your questions on there. And then, as always, we'll take your questions at the end, and I'll do my best to answer them regarding interviewing, salary negotiations, things like that. I do have several questions from clients that I've received this week. So if it gets quiet a little bit out there, I'll be sure I fill in the blanks for us. But just so you know who I am, my name is Tony Martin. I write a blog called How to Get the Job. And I also do resume writing and salary negotiation and coaching and all that stuff. Follow me on Instagram if you want to get daily tips on resume writing, on salary stuff, on interviewing skills. On my Instagram, I will often, daily, twice, 3 times a day, often, give you a snapshot of the resume I'm working on with the private information, of course, cleaned out of it, but telling you exactly what I'm doing on this resume to make it stronger. Most of the people that follow me, I think they find the value with that because they'll see a lot of their mistakes inside the resumes I'm working on. When it comes to Facebook and YouTube, certainly subscribe to the YouTube channel. Be sure to check that out because if you like these videos, these are all there. I do every few weeks, I do a different 3 to 5 minute video on some topic, which I think are pretty valuable as well. But everything is geared around helping you become more competitive in the hiring process. Because right now, let's face it, we all need some help potentially if we're looking for a job because there's so many people looking for a job. And my job is to make you stronger in that process. And then on the corporate side, if you're a corporate person, just so you know, I help my corporate clients with their corporate culture. I help them figure out when they're hiring, how to hire strategically and thoughtfully so that when they hire someone, they're not just backfilling that person 3 to 6 months later. Because let's face it, there's a lot of people out there right now who will say whatever they need to say in order to get hired by you. And if you hire them, at the end of the day, they might just walk away because the job wasn't quite what they wanted, and they just needed a job. So I help my corporate clients figure out how to hire the right people that are going to stick around, bring value in the short run, but also keep that retention number high so that they're going to grow with the organization. All right, let's get to our topic of the week. And I say 6, but really, I mean, there's probably going to be a couple more here. But here's the top 6 resume mistakes that I saw from last month, and I was able to help coach my clients through them. So the first thing that I saw, and I don't know why it happened so much last month, because usually I don't see it that much, but people's resumes were blocks of information. It wasn't scannable bullets. And I talk about this a lot. But when you are writing your accomplishments on your resume, they should be scannable bullets. They should not be blocks of reading because I'm not going to read it, okay? And if you write the accomplishment, it doesn't matter how well written the paragraph is. If I'm not going to read it, don't write it. And the longer you make a bullet, the less likely someone is to read it. Now, here is an interesting stat that seems to be true with all the professionals I work with. If your bullet is 4 lines long, I'm probably not going to read it. If your bullet is 3 lines long, I might read it. But here's the truth. 2 bullets that are each 2 lines long, I am more likely to read than 1 bullet that's 3 lines long. So, if you're writing your resume and you have bullets that are 3 lines long, 3 lines long, 3 lines long, chances are people like me aren't going to read the entire thing or most of it or even any of it. If your bullet is 2 lines long, I'm probably going to read or scan most of it and get the idea. So what does that mean? That means it's more valuable to have 2 bullets that are 2 lines long each, 4 total lines of information, than having 1 bullet that's 3 lines long. This doesn't really quite make sense until you really start thinking about it and realize that we as recruiters scan the information. We don't just read it, and you want to ensure that you are doing yourself a service by making sure I scan the stuff you want me to see. And the longer it is, the more difficult it is for me to pull out that piece of value. So that's the top thing I saw last month, which was unique because I don't really see that very often, but many of my clients had that. Next, when you have numbers in a resume, it is good. Okay? When somebody is scanning something, we're going to scan to the numbers. So don't write the number out. If you supervised 8 direct reports, don't write the word EIGHT. Okay? Use the word 8, or I should say, write the number 8. It does a few things. First of all, more importantly, my eyes scan to it. Okay? Next, it actually uses less characters than writing EIGHT. It uses 1 character versus 5 characters. And remember, you want to use your space on your resume sparingly. So it accomplishes those 2 things. It makes me read it or see it, and it makes me uses less space. The third thing it does, or you should do, is put it on the front of your bullet if at all possible. Lead with your numbers, because often your numbers are what your accomplishment is based on. I'll see a lot of the time where one of my clients will do something where they'll say, and this kind of actually goes into another thing, but another issue I saw last month. But when you're writing a resume, right, and you're writing your bullets, and you say something like, I partnered with clients to save them $3 million a month. Now that's a super short bullet, right? I'm probably going to see the entire thing. But often, partnering with clients in these departments to do this and save them $3 million. The accomplishment isn't the partnering with clients, because everybody in that job partners with clients. The accomplishment isn't the list of departments that you worked with. The accomplishment is saving them $3 million. So start the bullet with saved client $3 million. Lead with your numbers, and also lead with your accomplishments. So that's kind of a couple of things. We're talking about numbers still, but also make sure you lead with you. Don't lead with the partnering with your team. That seems to be at least once or twice a pop-up on every resume I do. So I'm almost guaranteeing, if you've never thought about it and you're someone watching this right now, look at your resume. I am guessing you have a whole bunch of things that say partnered with, worked with. Don't give the credit away to everybody else, okay? Take the credit. Save $3 million while working with a great team. Put that at the end. Because here's the other thing too, right? I scan. Do I ever scan the back of a bullet? No, no human being does. We all scan the front. And if we want to read further, then we get to the back. But we don't instinctually scan the back of the bullet. So lead with you, lead with your number, make sure that you put the supporting information in the back, because if I don't get to the supporting information, it's not critical. But if I never see your accomplishment because I scanned, that's the critical piece. And if you're having trouble, sometimes people, which is weird, I think, but probably not, because there's a lot of people that do it, they kind of struggle to figure out what the accomplishment is. And this will lead us to our next thing: limit your job description bullets. Your accomplishment isn't the job description. If your bullet on your resume reads like it came directly out of a job description, you know, entertain clients, cultivate new business. If all of your things directly tie to your job description, they're not accomplishments. They're just job descriptions. And make sure that you keep those to a minimum. 25% of your bullets or less, ideally less, should be job description in nature. Okay? So now, let's talk a little bit about fonts. Fonts matter, but your preference doesn't. People like different fonts for different reasons. The only reason why you need to have a font on your resume or you have a preference is because it allows the information to be as compact as possible, but also visually pleasing. There are two fonts that I recommend. Up until about a month ago, I only recommended New Times Roman because you can get more letters on a line without bleeding over to the second line. But then, because we're all learning new things, one of my clients sent me a resume and it was in Garamond, Garamond. And this font actually gives you more space on the line than New Times Roman. So you can have more characters on one line. The only thing with the Garamond, if I'm even saying it correctly, is the ampersand. When you say and, if you use the word, if you say and, you're fine. But if you use the little ampersand signal or symbol, it looks funky. So that's the only thing I don't like about it. But there's even opportunities where if you're working on a resume and for whatever reason you can't get this, and I like 11-point font size, 10 just seems like too small, 12 is too big, 11's comfortable. But often there'll be one line on a resume where I can't quite get the whole thing in on one line with 11 size font. Sometimes just changing that one line to 10.5 font will shrink it right up. You won't even notice it because it's such subtle to the eyes, but it'll allow you to get it on one line. I'd rather do that than change the margins, because when you change the margins, you often only change the margins on one page, and then it gets a little funky and you got to figure things out, especially if you're trying to true it up to the right. Okay, let's keep going here. And again, we're going to get to your questions next. If you do have any resume questions, please type them in. I appreciate the support from Pat, Anthony, and James. Thank you, but no questions yet. But certainly always love the live questions, because that's what excites me more than anything else, because I know that you care about something and I want to connect with you. All right, so the next thing I want to read here is you need to make your bullets exciting about you. Okay, we talked about this. Don't lead with others. Make sure that they're exciting about you, and make sure that they lead you to your accomplishment. That's good. Sometimes I will see a resume bullet that's extremely well written. You know, delivered a project to the client on time, ahead of schedule. Great. And it's well written. It's got some specifics in there. And I'll ask my client about it. I'll be saying, hey, so tell me about this project in 2017. Well, actually, it actually failed. Well, you said you delivered it on time. Yeah, we delivered it on time. But then when the client got it, they couldn't actually get it to work, or they couldn't monetize it the way they expected it to. So as a result, and this actually happened, the company went bankrupt. Which company? My company went bankrupt. Whoa, dude. I don't care how well a project, a bullet is written. If it's going to lead you to a terrible story, it's going to make me as a recruiter feel bad for you, then get rid of it, okay? Now, yes, there's failures and there's mistakes. And on my Instagram, I'll often post things about, look, our failures is what leads us to our successes. But on the flip side, we don't need to highlight our failures on the way to success. We want to highlight the successes. We can talk about the failures humbly, because that's what our interview is for, to be humble. But you don't want the things that you're writing to lead you to embarrassing, sad stories, because then you're going to get a little recessed in the conversation. You're going to be less excited and engaged during the conversation. And what does that mean? You're going to lose energy in the conversation, which means I'm going to maybe not want to hire you, or maybe it's going to come across like you're hiding something, but then I'm going to start digging. I'm going to ask you more and more and more questions. And before we know it, we're going to get to something you're not very proud of. So remove the roadmap to the failures. If a company failed that you're with, so be it. It happens. But try to find one thing that in there that you're really proud of that you can talk about. You don't need to have 15 bullets for a company that failed, especially if you were only there for 6 months or a year, when in your history you've been at everywhere else for 3 to 7 years. So proportionately have that right amount of bullets. 1-2 bullets for a 1-year job or a 6-month job is not unreasonable. And if you don't want to talk about it, have less information about it. All right, next. Customize your resume to the job description words that you're seeing. So when you're applying somewhere, there's going to be a lot of different words in that job description. Must have SAP. There's going to be categories. There's going to be systems. There's going to be lots of things in that resume or that job description that's going to give you the clue as to what you should be focusing on in your resume. Do not use the same resume for 4 different types of jobs. If they're all a sales job that require the same amount of experience, then fine, you can use a similar resume. 97% of the resume can be the same, but your professional summary better be a little bit different. It better actually reference the specific title of the job you're applying for in the specific company that this resume is being sent to. That will go a long way for someone like me who's going to read it, ensuring that I actually feel like I should read yours. When you do that, I will feel like you actually wrote it for me, which then is going to pull me in and go, huh, Rick actually wrote this for me. So let me continue it, because this isn't a generic resume. He can't send this resume to everybody because it actually has my job title, business development lead versus supervisor or analyst or something. And it has my company name. So use that to your advantage. So simple. It'll take you 3 seconds to switch out position name, company name, but it'll add so much more value. Do the small things if you don't have time. That's going to give you the results. And the last thing we'll talk about before we get to any live questions. So again, if you have live questions, type them in. Now is your time. But before we get to that, the last thing, when you apply, now this really isn't a mistake I saw clients do, but it is something that they get very surprised by. When you apply to a careers page, use the Word document or an RTF file. And often when you see, you'll see it a couple ways. One, when you apply, it'll actually say in this big paragraph of information, supported file types include, and rarely will you see PDF, okay? Applicant tracking systems don't scan a PDF very well. And this should be obvious, because after you upload your document on the careers page, the next is the application, which is supposed to be auto-filled based on the information that you just uploaded. However, if you upload a PDF, it's often wrong. Information's in the wrong place. Characters are not the same characters. What is it? A comma might become a hashtag. Things like that happen on a PDF when they convert. Just like if you try to convert a PDF to a Word document, it's never perfect, right? So don't limit. So when you're applying to a careers page, use a Word document so the applicant tracking system can scan it. When you're emailing a resume, when you are sending your resume out for networking opportunities, when you're LinkedIn direct messaging your resume, that's the time for the PDF. But the only time for the Word document is on the careers page. Do that. It'll help your resume get past to the next level. So often there's not many, I don't want you to overly worry about this, because there's not many applicant tracking systems out there that actually have artificial intelligence and scan the resume and flag the ones that should be read. There's not many companies that can afford that kind of system right now, especially. But they do exist. And when they do exist, the PDFs probably aren't doing you justice. The Word documents will be seen. Okay. All right. Now, let us see. We don't have any questions yet, but that's not a problem, because I have clients, thank God. And those clients ask me questions throughout the week, and they Instagram me. So we'll do a quick promo. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Look, if this is the best part of any one of these shows, is the questions I get. I try to make sure that I don't overly repeat client questions. But if you like these questions and these are what bring you value, I have hours of me answering questions over on YouTube. Simply go to all of these weekly reviews and weekly updates, go to 15 minutes in, and you will see on the bottom of your screen right there, Q&A. That's the sign I'm in the Q&A. That might be the most valuable thing, but by being a subscriber on my YouTube channel, 1, you encourage me to keep doing this. And 2, it ensures that these questions get answered. And also, if you think any of this has been valuable so far, feel free to give me a thumbs up, a like, a little bright idea on LinkedIn. I greatly appreciate that too, because let's be honest. Well, you don't know. I'm a words of affirmation guy. Okay, that's my love language. So that little thumbs up is me saying, you saying I did a good job. All right. So now let's get to our questions for the week. Mike in South Carolina asked me, how do you answer the question, what are you looking to make? This question I try to limit to a monthly answer because I do get it every single week. Every client seemingly has not watched any of my videos and I answer this question. So when you answer the question, now you're going to get this question usually in the first phone call. When you get this question, you need to be sure you have a number. If you don't have a number, you are now going to be a less desirable candidate. Because you can even say, oh, I'm open to anything, but nobody's open to anything, okay? You might be open to 10% less than what you used to make. You might be open to 50% less than what you used to make, but then tell me. And if you're afraid of leaving money on the table, which we often are, there's a specific way to answer this question. No matter how it's asked, what are you looking to make? What were you making before? If they asked you what you were making before, that's illegal in some states, but in Texas it's not. So tell them what you were making before. But also follow up with the actual answer, which is going to be what I want you to say, okay? What I want you to say, which is going to put you in the best position is, from my research, it appears this position is paying somewhere around $135,000 a year. That seems reasonable to me. Now, you have to know that in advance, right? You can't just make up a number and go, yeah, 135 seems right. So when you apply to a job, make sure you go into Glassdoor, Indeed, Salary.com, and Payscale.com. Go to those 4 websites. Also, there's different, if you're part of SPE, I know SPE has a Society of Petroleum Engineers. They actually have their own salary calculator to some degree where they've audited companies, they've taken the information, and they've been able to upload it in there so you have an idea of what companies pay. But by doing that, then when you get that cross-section of information, you can then write that on the application, on the job description that you're printing out. And when you get phone called about it, you can say, okay, this job, I wrote down 135. So you can answer the question, I think this, my research has shown me, or from my research, I think this job pays about 135. That seems to be the market rate, but this is COVID-19. I'm not quite sure. Is that accurate? Now, when you say, is that accurate? You've now given me the cue that it's my turn as a recruiter to answer your question. And I might validate that 135 is right. I might say you're within budget. I might even tell you at this point, you know what, actually, we're at 125, so I understand. And then before I finish my sentence, cut me off. No, actually, no, well, 125, I'm open to that discussion. I'd like to know a little bit more about this role because maybe I don't understand a couple of things or whatever, but make sure you give that cue that you're open to it because you've never actually told me you want 135. You told me you think the job pays 135. And when you think the job pays 135, this gives you all the room to negotiate. Even when a month from now you get the job offer and it's 135, you can then comfortably come back and go, you know what, I was hoping for 150. But Tony, you said 135. Well, yeah, no, I said I thought the job paid 135 a month ago. But a month ago, I had one sheet of information telling me what the job was about, and I had a 20-minute conversation with you, Steve, about it. Since then, I've now talked to Sarah, Jessica, Amber, and Michelle, and I've talked to the VP of HR, and they've all told me some other things that weren't part of that job description. And I'm now actually at P&L responsibility, and I now actually have a team of 17 with 3 direct reports where the job description said I was leading a team of 3. So I've learned a little bit more. I just think that the job should pay 150. Now, again, you're not saying you're not going to take 135, but you've given yourself the opportunity to negotiate versus pitting yourself on day one within 5 minutes of talking to someone, a number which is really difficult to wiggle away from or, you know, change comfortably at the last minute. So I hope that helps more than just Mike. But that was certainly a question I get, and I'll answer it again in November, but I'll try to answer it again in October. Amy in Austin asked me, how often should I follow up with the recruiter after the interview? Now, this question is a normal question, right? You don't want to look desperate. You've just interviewed. Now, it depends on what level of the interviews you are too. Are you just doing a phone screen, or are you actually in the final interview stages, things like that. But after every interview, whether it's a phone screen or whether it's a face-to-face or whether it's the last and final interview and you're up against one other person to your best knowledge, you should always say something to the effect of, hey, I'm really excited about this opportunity. Do you know when you guys are going to be making a decision? Do you know when I would be expecting to hear back from you? Anything like that will tell me to say, you know what, and you'll probably get some insights to what's going on. Because if you have 3 interviews in one day, it's not uncommon, right? You're going to meet with 3 different people in 3 different offices, because I'm going to want to maximize your time as a candidate. I don't want you to have to come in here 3 different days. I want you to come in here on a Monday, meet with 3 people, and then get out. And then we can meet everybody else. But if you ask each person that question, you might actually get some contradicting information, because one person's going to lie to you and say, well, you're the first person of several candidates we're going to be talking with. And one person might say, hey, you're the final candidate we're actually going to be talking with. That second person's probably right. The first person's trying to give them more time to make a decision. But ask that question. It's going to give you a lot of insight. But then it's also going to give you permission to follow up, because they're going to say, either way, they're going to tell you different things. And hopefully they're all going to say the same thing. But if they told you different things, Mike says, we should know something by next Tuesday. Sarah says, we should know something by next Friday. And Steve says, we should know something by the 1st of November. You have now got an indication as to when you can follow up with each one of them, and you come back with, hey, so if I don't hear from you by the 2nd of November, can I send you a quick email? Yeah, absolutely, no problem. Get their business card, give you permission to get their business card. Or they might even tell you, we'd really prefer for you just to follow up with our recruiter because we kind of streamline it. No problem at all. But you've now gotten permission to follow up with the recruiter. And then you can go to the recruiter afterwards and go, hey, look, 3 people told me 3 different things, and I get it that I don't need to know this, but when will I know more? And then maybe the recruiter will then open the kimono a little bit and tell you a little bit more about what's actually going on. Well, actually, you're the top 2 or whatever, but use the information to help you know when to follow up. But you need to ask that question. Now, if you never ask that question, you're currently in the interview process and you haven't asked that question, always follow up the next day with a thank you email. Send a specific thank you email to each person you spoke with. CC the recruiter on that email so they see you wrote something different to every person. If you don't have those people's email addresses, send an email to the recruiter and say, hey, Joe, would you mind forwarding the below message on to Sarah? Joe, would you mind forwarding the below message on to Frank? Make sure and each one is different. Again, this is going to build the relationship with the recruiter, which is so important in this process. All right. Thanks, Sandy. I appreciate that. Sandy, you said, doing a good job. Get the words of affirmation. I appreciate it. All right. Edgar in Toronto. Again, if you got any live questions, feel free. I got a few more, and we're coming close to the end of the hour, but I will always, if I see a live question come in, I'll go a little long just to chat about it. All right. Edgar in Toronto this week. Toronto, Canada, in case you didn't know. How do I answer the question, tell me about yourself? This is a question you are going to get every interview, often multiple times in the same day if you're doing multiple interviews, right? And you don't need to answer the question dramatically different, but you should answer the question a little different. Just like your resume, if you're applying to 2 sales jobs with the same title but different companies, your resume is going to be 98% the same, right? Because the only thing that's going to change is the company's name that you're applying to, or the company and position specific title name you're applying to. When you're answering the question, tell me about yourself, this is not the time for you to go on a long soliloquy about how you adopted 6 children and how you're a single mom or a single dad, or you love sports and you're a Patriots fan or a Red Sox fan and nobody gets you. This is not the time for that kind of tell me about yourself. This is not a date. This is a time for you to tell me about why you're going to be good at this job. And you're going to be good in this job and the things I care about. As a manager over a recruiter, I probably care differently about your skill sets than the VP of the department. If I'm hiring a recruiter, I care about your ability to manage expectations. I care about your ability to work through a pipeline of candidates quickly. I care about your ability to assess and screen talent, okay? If I'm the VP of HR and I'm interviewing you to be a recruiter on the team, I don't probably care necessarily about you managing expectations of clients or candidates. Not because I don't care about it, but it's just not my scope. I don't care about that stuff. I care about KPIs. I care about time to fill. I care about making sure that my clients, my internal managers, are getting the people they need. I care about retention numbers. But you can see that depending on who you're interviewing with, your tell me about yourself answer is going to focus on why you're good at the job but maybe in some different areas because you need to understand what's important to the person you're speaking with, or what do they care about. And the VP of HR is going to have 95% of the same things that they care about as the recruiting manager, but there is going to be a 5% difference. And if you have the opportunity to make that relationship on that 5% difference on the recruiting manager versus the VP, and you connect with them both that way, it goes a long way. Because then when they're talking at the end of the day and they've met with 3 different candidates and they're going to be discussing something and like, I don't really know why, but so-and-so just really was good. And they seem to understand what I was looking for. Their manager's gonna be like, no, what? I get that too, even though your answer was different, and they don't even realize that they're looking for 2 different things, or they're focusing on 2 different things, okay? All right, last question of the day, and then I will depart. James in Cyprus asked the telltale question of how long should a resume be? And everybody in unison who has watched one of these videos or a few of these has said it does not matter. Your resume length overall does not matter as long as you follow a few basic rules. 1, your resume bullets should be relevant to the job you're applying for. If you have done 3 or 4 different types of careers over 30 years, and over the first 10 years, you had done a sales rep job, and over the last 10 years, you were a CEO and you're applying to CEO roles, it really is doubtful that the sales rep job role matters. So you should have some information about it, but it shouldn't be super long and detailed. If you've had a linear career where you were a sales rep, sales manager, sales lead, director over sales, director over business development, VP of business development, and you're applying to a VP director role, then maybe all of that stuff does matter. But rule 1, make sure that the skills matter and the bullets matter. Okay, you can have a couple that aren't relevant, but overall, make sure 95% of those bullets are relevant to the job you're applying for. That's rule 1. Rule 2, your resume length does not matter if you are not repeating bullets. If you are repeating bullets and saying the same thing every 5 years, even though you did the same thing in 3 different jobs, it is dumb. Okay, remove the bullets that repeat. I know you can do it if I've already seen it once. And certainly if they're job description bullets, remove them, because I can't tell you how many times I see resumes where it was, manage client expectations today, 8 years ago, manage clients' expectations. And then 15 years ago, manage clients' expectations. Those aren't even accomplishments to highlight. So you sure as heck shouldn't be highlighting a mundane job description type bullet, because remember, I'm scanning. And the more things you put in there that aren't impressive, you limit the likelihood I'm going to scan something that is impressive, okay? You want me to scan the good stuff. So guess what? That means remove the bad stuff. Limit the bad stuff to the 75-25% rule. 75% of your bullets or more should be accomplishments you are proud of, unique accomplishments you are proud of. 25% of your bullets or less should be job description in nature. So your resume length does not matter if all of your bullets are relevant, if you don't repeat bullets, and last thing, don't have like an awkward break, okay? Look at it. Before you submit your resume, especially if you're one of those people still gonna submit a PDF, even though we've discussed you should not submit a PDF. Sometimes when you convert a Word to PDF, one of the spaces gets messed up, and now all of a sudden, you actually have a 3-page document, but the last page is totally blank. Just take a couple seconds, look at the document once you've converted it, or once you email the resume to somebody. Before you do that, make sure you look at the document and ensure the spacing makes sense. Make sure that if you have a section, there's not one line from that section that bleeds over to the next page. Work on making sure visually it's pleasing. And if you are like 3 pages and 2 lines long, figure out how to remove 2 lines of information somewhere in the previous 2 pages or 3 pages to get it all on 3 pages, or to get it all on 2 pages. If you're 2.5, that's fine. I'm just saying that if you're a couple of lines over from having a complete page, or if you're a couple of lines over on a brand new page, remove a couple lines to get it all on a whole number of pages. And if you have trouble with that, reach out to me. We can work through that. If you're 2 3/4 pages long, you could probably put some extra spacing on other pages to make you 3 even pages long. Okay, we can work through it together though. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I really get, this is the stuff that pumps me up to now. I have about 5 resumes I'm working on this afternoon, but this high, if you will bring me through and help my clients better, because I'm gonna be really engaged because of it. But if you do have any questions, comments, always email me, Instagram me, LinkedIn me, Facebook me, MySpace me, TikTok me. Well, I don't do that stuff, but certainly find me and I will absolutely connect with you, help you make your resume stronger, give you a free consult, sit there, look at your resume and figure out ways to help make you stronger and more competitive in this very competitive market. And as always, follow me on YouTube, subscribe to my channel, and let me show you or your friends how to get the job. I hope to see you next time. Thanks so much for watching.